But you mentioned the convergence thing. So whatever the thing associated with the disease shows up.
So let me explain convergence.
Yeah.
Convergence is such a beautiful concept. So you basically have these 4 genes that are converging on calcium signaling. So that basically means that they are acting each in their own way, but together in the same process. Mm-hmm. But now, in every one of these loci, you have many enhancers controlling each of those genes. That's another type of convergence, where dysregulation of 7 different enhancers might all converge on dysregulation of that one gene, which then converges on calcium signaling. And in each one of those enhancers, you might have multiple genetic variants distributed across many different people. Everyone has their own different mutation, but all of these mutations are impacting that enhancer, and all of these enhancers are impacting that gene, and all of these genes are impacting this pathway, and all of these pathways are acting in the same tissue, and all of these tissues are converging together on the same biological process of schizophrenia.
And you're saying the saving grace is that convergence seems to happen for a lot of these diseases.
For all of them. Basically, that for every single disease that we've looked at, we have found an epigenomic enrichment. How do you do that? You basically have all of the genetic variants associated with the disorder, and then you're asking for all of the enhancers active in a particular tissue. For 540 disorders, we've basically found that indeed there is an enrichment. That basically means that there is commonality. And from the commonality, we can just get insights. So to explain in mathematical terms, we're basically building an empirical prior. We're using a Bayesian approach to basically say, great, all of these variants are equally likely in a particular locus to be important. So in a genetic locus, you basically have a dozen variants that are co-inherited, because the way that inheritance works in the human genome is through all of these recombination events during meiosis. You basically have, you inherit maybe chromosome 3, for example, in your body. It's inherited from 4 different parts. One part comes from your dad, another part comes from your mom, another part comes from your dad, another part comes from your mom. So basically, the way that from your mom's mom. So you basically have one copy that comes from your dad and one copy that comes from your mom. But that copy that you got from your mom is a mixture of her maternal and her paternal chromosome. And the copy that you got from your dad is a mixture of his maternal and his paternal chromosome. So these breakpoints that happen when chromosomes are lining up are basically ensuring, through these crossover events, they're ensuring that every child cell during the process of meiosis, where you basically have, one spermatozoid that basically couples with one ovule to basically create one egg to basically create the zygote. You basically have half of your genome that comes from dad and half of your genome that comes from mom. But in order to not line them up, you basically have these crossover events. These crossover events are basically leading to co-inheritance of that entire block coming from your maternal grandmother and that entire block coming from your maternal grandfather. Over many generations, these crossover events don't happen randomly. There's a protein called PRDM9 that basically guides the double-stranded breaks and then leads to these crossovers. And that protein has a particular preference to only a small number of hotspots of recombination, which then lead to a small number of breaks between these co-inheritance patterns. So even though there are 6 million variants, there are 6 million loci, there's this variation is inherited in blocks. And every one of these blocks has like 24 genetic variants that are all associated. So in the case of FTO, it wasn't just one variant, it was 89 common variants that were all humongously associated with obesity. Which ones of those is the important one? Well, if you look at only one locus, you have no idea. But if you look at many loci, you basically say, aha, all of them are enriching in the same epigenomic map. In that particular case, it was mesenchymal stem cells. So these are the progenitor cells that give rise to your brown fat and your white fat.